What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for the Fightful.com podcast. I do believe this drops December 6th. We have Shane Helms. Shane, by the time this drops, really just in a couple hours, you will be en route to the TNA tapings.
Yeah, that's right. I'm heading down for a 9. It'll be a lot warmer in Orlando than it is here in North Carolina. That's for sure.
Are you going to send me a bunch of scoops? Or are you going to be like, Dixie beat the shit out of John Gaboric backstage?
Oh, man, I would love to see something like that. I'll be world star, man. I'll put that shit up right away.
Speaking of, I saw you had some choice words for one Ariel Helwani. Why do you hate Ariel so much?
Sucks, man. I like him when he broke that Brock Lesnar shit. Like, he fucked
really?
that whole live crowd. Live crowd, you know, I mean, they were holding that for that live crowd, so the people that paid tickets could get that big pop. And it was.
I get the feeling we'll have differing opinions on that. But I mean,
yeah. And two, like, he's supposed to be this journalist, and half the time he was getting paid by UFC, so he loses credibility there.
I don't agree with that at all. I agree with you there. I don't agree with him doing that. That's a rough one. That is a rough one. I think he's an outstanding journalist, but man, that UFC thing, the fact that he was getting paid by them, that was rough. And I know that wasn't something he was comfortable with, but we'll save that for a complete show in the future, because I think, like, journalist versus performer is a very good topic for us to handle one day.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this
journalist to talk to, though.
Oh, that's so good.
And Ronda Rousey.
Oh, man. I'm glad that you're a wrestler and an agent and not a fucking stand-up comedian, Shane, because you would be real poor. Either way.
I made a lot of money being funny, bitch.
God.
My juice.
If you're listening to this show in 2018.
Shoot, what are we talking about
This
today?
This is the week after Ronda Rousey got beat by Amanda Nunes. Now, there's so many we're going to talk about gimmick matches today, but we can't not tackle this topic. Man, there's a lot of stuff about this. She looked horrible in that fight. Looked real bad. No head movement. Of course, a lot of fingers getting pointed at her corner. People saying she'll never fight again. People saying WWE will definitely want her. People saying WWE won't ever want her. I want your thoughts on everything from the fight to her future, Shane.
Well, obviously, it was a terrible performance. She never really got out of the gates. Before we say it was a terrible performance on her part, though, we got to say that a lot of her not being able to get out of the gate is within 10 seconds. Nunes lands a combo that just stuck her. You know, she may just be one of those people that she's lost her chin now. You know, it happens to Chuck Liddell. There was a time that Chuck could hit him with a damn truck and it wouldn't hurt him. And there at the end, he was getting knocked out by shots that never would have knocked him out. You know, I think she mentioned that I think she broke a jaw against Holly Holm or something like that. So maybe she just had to pull punches. And, you know, there's no set criteria for when that happens, or no set, like, getting hit that happens, you know. Because wars, obviously, but Amanda Nunes is a hard-hitting human being. You know, male or female, that girl hits hard, obviously. So, opportunity to get out of the gate. And when we talk about her grappling, the thing about that judo style is, you know, they grapple up high. You know, she's not one who's going to do a lot of single legs, a lot of double legs. You know, they kind of clinch up high. She has to get inside and go for that clinch, and there comes the throw.
Her knees are shot too, by the way.
Nunes means she's going to have to take some shots. And if her knees are shot, obviously it's going to be hard to do a lot of shooting with bad knees. So to get inside, she's going to have to take a couple of shots, and it was very apparent that she cannot take a couple of shots from Nunes. And actually, I'm not sure who can. I mean, other than I think looking forward, we got to talk about Kat Zagano is going to be who should be a challenger in the future. But you know, Hito coming in and never stopped, and You know, we all know, or at least the majority of MMA fans and MMA insiders thinks that she needs a new training coach, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not an insider in her camp or anything, but he does seem to be a bit of a dipshit. You know, if you just look at the people that go to him, and most of them, their careers tends to suffer. You know, if that starts to be the case, you got to look at the common denominator, and in this case, he's the common denominator. So.
I talked to Showdown Joe, and I was like, all right, let's run down the list of people that he's worked with. Travis Brown, when he came into the UFC heavyweight division, had some of the best footwork in the division already. I trained with Jessamine Duke before she turned pro, and she looked like she had every tool to be a top 5 fighter in whatever division she chose. Shayna Baszler trained with one of the greatest catch wrestlers of all time in Billy Robinson. She was submitting people left and right. Jake Ellenberger was a really good 170-pounder who had fallen off a little bit, but every single one of those people were rendered to the point to where they couldn't win fights anymore. Man, and Amanda Nunes, did you see what Amanda Nunes said after the fight about him?
Too. Somebody whose big background is a grappler, and they get a couple good knockouts, all of a sudden they think they're knockout artists, and that's just not the case. Definitely not all the time.
Amanda Nunes said after the fight, basically, she said, well, my game plan was to assume that she would have really shitty coaching, and as it turned out, she did.
I think that's just, Ronda Rousey now, people just have figured her out, and so she's going to have to adjust. She doesn't adjust her game plan, what to do when she comes in. She's going to come in, like I said, she's going to try to clinch high and go for a throw. If you can just pop her coming in, and now, like I said, getting beat up by Nunes isn't like she got beat up by Jobber Joe, you know what I mean? So she got beat up by really badass women. So it's easy to sit back and armchair quarterback and say she'll never fight again, but I'm not going to be one of those. I heard people say that she can't handle adversity. I'm like, she's a fucking Olympian. What are you talking about? She can't. I'm sure her Olympic quest. There was adversity placed upon her. She's a badass female, but she's going to have to make adjustments, if she's going to survive in this game. And if she's got a lot of interest coming from outside areas, and if that's a little bit more intriguing to her, then that might be something that she needs to explore, because it ain't going to do her no good to go out there and get her ass kicked times.
Well, she had 2 movie projects put on hold, allegedly because she can't act. WWE, I get the feeling they'd be a lot more interested in a guy named Conor McGregor, because there was a comment on our YouTube that made a lot of sense. They said that America loves really strong women, and she has become very delicate mentally and physically of late. I think WWE would still be interested in her, but I think that her value is much, much, much lower than it was 14 months ago. I know your boy, Disco Inferno, had some choice words about that. What are your opinions on Ronda Rousey, WWE, and that whole situation?
I'm sure it might be a little bit lower, her value to WWE, but I'm sure they'll still be interested, no doubt. Like I said, it's that armchair quarterback mentality to say you lose a couple fights and you're done. She's definitely not done. She's still a badass, and she's still an intriguing person, and it wasn't like Mike Tyson was at the top of the world when WWE used him,
He was eating humans, though.
Yeah, but he was taking some ass whippings too, so
yes.
There's still a value there. Would they like Conor McGregor? Of course, fucking who wouldn't? Any show in the world right now would want Conor McGregor, even if it ain't got nothing to do with, any sports at all. He's a very entertaining, charismatic figure. So of course they would want him, but there's still a value for Ronda Rousey. It's absurd. She's a pioneer of this sport. There would be interest for Miesha Tate. There would be interest for Gina Carano if she ever wanted to. So to say there's no interest whatsoever is absurd. Did the stock drop a little bit? Maybe so, but I guarantee you there's still interest.
Oh, to further hammer home your point, if Conor McGregor offered to show up on this show just to punch me in the face, I would do it because of the numbers it would draw. I would absolutely do it. And Miesha Tate, Fightful reached out to her right before she signed her Fox deal. So unfortunately, we couldn't make that happen. But I agree. There's all this, oh, she lost twice. It's all over. She could fight in 3 months and the UFC would love it, and she might win. She might win. The Kat Zingano thing, she's got to get back in the cage. She hasn't won since that 2014 fight over Nunes, and that win over Nunes means a whole lot more now than it did a week ago. So she's got to get back in there. For the Rousey to WWE thing, I think if they bring her in, I think you should come in and gauge her reaction, because there are people saying that she's getting booed when they show her on the screen during those WrestleMania promos now. If she comes in and she gets booed, let her work with a babyface. If she comes in and gets cheered out of the building, then have somebody like Charlotte heal the shit out of her and say, you think you can come over to our sport because you failed at yours? Like, there are plenty of ways to do that.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the fans definitely play a part in things. If they don't like a character, they don't like a character. Of course, there's the Roman Reigns factor, which is, that is what it is. But I think Ronda started getting booed to me when she did The Ultimate Fighter. Once you saw her and Misha Tate, like, she went in like a really popular, not talking about just popular, but a loved fighter. But watching that Ultimate Fighter, you start to get a sense that she's not really that nice of a person. And Misha Tate came off like a sweetheart. Now, that could have been all work. She could have been putting on the act the whole time. But still, that's how it came off. And, and then you saw some of the stuff after the fight when she lost her home, just the way she handled things and some of the things she says, So she's definitely coming off very unlikable. Then dodging the media on this fight before and after. I mean, if you saw Dominic Cruz go out there, he sat there and stood at the podium after that fight, and not like a man, but just with class, dignity, answer the questions. He got beat up, man. And I definitely didn't expect him to lose that fight, much less, I mean, he got probably, I think he lost four out of five rounds. So he stood there and he took it, man. And I know it's easier to be humble in defeat. The people always say that, is to me, it's easier to show class in defeat, because why? You ain't got shit to talk about once you get beat up. Once you win, then if you're humble in victory, and I hate the humble thing anyway, but if you are, that's a little bit tougher, because when you just beat somebody's ass, it's real easy to go out there and talk all that shit, but you deserved it. You've earned the right to do that. So, but Ronda comes off bad either way. Either when she wins, she comes off like a heel, and when she loses, she comes off a heel. And so, I mean, she might just be a heel. So, Mr. Sapp, you might have a point. Maybe bring her in and let her be that natural personality that she seems to have, and go with that.
There are women in wrestling. I mean, just kind of, I'm not saying she'll pop up in WWE, TNA, anywhere, but you put her in there with a Sasha Banks, a Gail Kim, a Bayley, they'll get something out of her. Big Show got a good match out of Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather has not had a match before or since. There are smoke and mirrors there. Also, there's a guy named Conor McGregor who lost with class. He showed up. He said, Nate Diaz is the better man. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to beat him. And he's a bigger star than he's ever been. Yeah. Also, I want to talk about that fight you mentioned, Cody Garbrandt. Wow.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming in a million years.
Yeah. I was super surprised. I still won my bets, but of course I couldn't pull off the parlay. I won 4 out of 6. But I picked Dominic to win, man. But it's the first time I've seen somebody faster than him. In a fight game, and a lot of boxers would tell you this, and MMA guys, I'm sure, speed is the first thing to go. Speed, that's the first thing to go from a skill set. You'll have your power almost to the end, but speed, then reflexes, then power. So and if that's one of your main things, if that is your main thing, that you're faster than somebody else, Roy Jones Jr. is somebody who comes to mind. That was always his thing. He never got hit. He could duck, he could bob and weave, and nobody could ever touch him until he started getting touched. And then, then his career went on a different trajectory. So and maybe Cody's just that much faster. Maybe he's just a super fast guy, and that's what we saw. But hopefully, Dominic come back, because he's really good, man. He's one of the most technical fighters out there. You know, I think you called him a scientist, and that's probably as good a name for him as anything. But he's a really good analysis too. So if he's looking at other things to do, I just kind of feel like the fight game, man, you kind of got to have one focus. If you start getting distracted by outside shit, that's when people start getting beat up.
Oh, yeah. And I thought the moment where he gave the title belt to the child that had cancer, that has been his friend for years, that was just an awesome moment. That was incredible. And before we get
Super big face moment.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to the gimmick topic of the day, Todd Grisham, former WWE announcer, is now working for the UFC as a play-by-play announcer on the Fox Sports 1 shows. What do you think of that move? Phil,
did
I lose you?
Yeah, you froze up for a second. You sure that's me or is that you?
It's definitely you. Either way, Todd Grisham, former WWE announcer, is working for the UFC as a Fox Sports 1 play-by-play guy. What do you think about that?
I think that's great, man. I've known Todd for many years. You know, I texted him right away and said I had heard inklings of this coming up, but it was something I was asked not to say anything about. So, you know, I respect my friend's wishes. But he knows his shit, man. Don't think that he's just some outsider that they're bringing in. You know, he knows what he's talking about, and he's a great talker. I think he'll be really good. So, is it going to be him and Rogan?
Well, it's going to be on the FS1 show, so we don't know who his guy will be. I think Anik is moving up to pay-per-view in the interim until they get their guy.
So he'll take Anik's place?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, cool. He'd be good, man. Him and maybe him and the guy we just mentioned, Mr. Cruz, would be a good little team, or him and Cormier. You know, Cormier is good on there. You know, Chael Sonnen's another guy. Like, obviously, he's not going to do it for UFC, but I always like when you got a former fighter or somebody that really knows their shit. If they can talk, you know, Roy Jones Jr. in boxing's really good. If you used to listen to Foreman would lay them analysts out sometimes with some real shit because he'd been there. You know, I mean, being an analyst and being an outside observer is one thing, and you might know as much as an observer can, but when you got that inside knowledge of somebody that's actually walked that walk, to me that just adds a little bit more credibility to the game. So I would like to see Todd paired with Cruz or Cormier or somebody like that, or Kenny Foyan.
I think it's crucial. Like, I've done color commentary and I've done play-by-play for pro wrestling and MMA, and I always prefer to be the play-by-play guy because I think it's always more beneficial to have somebody who has been there at a high level to do the color commentary or analysis. You can have a color commentator and an analyst, but I always prefer the play-by-play thing because if I'm going to get jobs elsewhere, it's more likely going to be as a play-by-play guy, because if I were a promoter, I would want a former fighter or a former wrestler in that color commentary or analyst spot. So I think it's crucial. I think Todd Grisham is a good hire. He knows his stuff, and I think he'll be a good play-by-play guy. Now,
yeah, I think it's going to be great.
To the topic of the day, gimmick matches, Shane. Gimme gimmick matches. We have some questions too. You've been in your fair share of gimmick matches, and I've got them listed here. Some of the moments, some of the dates and times. We'll get started with a few of these and how they stack up. Some of the challenges, some of the benefits of doing these. We're going to start with the old mixed tag match, where you got to team up with a female wrestler. Back in the day, the 90s. You could wallop those girls. Today, it's a little bit different, Shane. Do you remember when that change was made where it's like, hey, let's maybe not beat the shit out of the women on the show?
I can't remember the exact date. I'm pretty sure it was around the PG era when that started. It can be a difficult situation when you're a babyface because you don't want to go in there and, you know, just start, pounding on the female. I mean, it's different down in Mexico. It's different down in Mexico, and I know Lucha Underground, they go out there and kind of do whatever, but it can put you in a difficult situation. But at the same time, in real life, amateur wrestling, I had to wrestle a female, and you got to take it seriously. You got to go in there, and you got to wrestle this person seriously, or she'll beat your ass. You know, so it's a difficult little thing. For me, personally, I was a superhero, so I need to be on the side of justice and all of this. I would not want to go in there And it always kind of made me uncomfortable because, you know, you got to be aware that there's kids watching and sometimes you can send the wrong message. You know, the message that it's okay for women to hit men and men not to hit women, that too is the wrong message, because I think women see that on TV or as young girls, and then they go try to implement that shit in real life. And that's not exactly how it plays out in real life and can put them in dangerous situations, which I don't want to happen for anybody. So that's always been in the back of my mind. I would see it when I was a kid. You know, you watch, you know, whatever show and women be slapping the shit out of men and the men, you know, didn't do anything back. In real life, that's not the case. So I've always been wary of that message, and I never really liked it. You know, I'm not a big fan of mixed tag matches at all. They could be entertaining at times if you got good characters, but just to go out there and do that, I'm not a huge fan of that at all.
Based on my research, the majority of yours were on live event loops. I know you teamed with Ivory a lot, obviously Molly Holly a lot. Which was your favorite to work with, and what kind of challenges did each one of those perhaps present? Because I know you worked against Lita and Matt.
Yeah, when we would do the ones where the guys and girls would have to tag out, to me that became a little easier. And then, keep in mind, and that's a lot different, as I was saying, than the actual message I was talking about a while ago. Because in pro wrestling, these girls are really tough. They're not these delicate flowers that you got to be, you know, you got to tiptoe through the tulips with. You know, so as a heel, if it was me and Molly or me and Ivory, you know, I wasn't supposed to be in there with, say, Lita. On the referee's back, we would go in there and double suplex them. And as a heel, then I would jump up and, you know, whatever pose. As a heel, it was a little bit easier for me. As a baby face, it was tough because you're not supposed to hit the girl, because there is this whatever subliminal idea that they're delicate flowers. But in real life, that's not the case. You know, Miss Jacqueline to go out there and punch you in the damn face. You know, I remember Crash Holly telling me like some of his toughest matches were with Miss Jacqueline because she would knock the shit out of you. So, but that's the thing. Mindset that they can beat the shit out of the guys and the guys just have to take it. You know, you got to work around it, you know, but it can be difficult.
What was your reaction to being told, hey, you're going to work like over the next month, you're going to work with Ivory against these two? Did that make sense? I mean, maybe that was part of the alliance angle. I can't really recall, but I mean, I know you had like a month where some days it would be you and Ivory, or the majority of the live events was you and Ivory against Matt and Lita. Did I lose you again? Did I lose you again, Matt? Shane?
Man,
are you there? What about now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Shane?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
When you start talking, it gets really choppy, and I don't know what the hell you're saying.
It's okay. I'll edit it. So I know that you did this like 1 month loop with Ivory. What was the thought process in that when you're told, hey, you're going to go about a month teaming with Ivory?
It was longer than that, it seemed. You know, we would team a lot. I don't know exactly how long it was. It was fun because you know, Lisa Ivory had a I mean, she'd been around a long time, so I didn't really have to like call the match for her. You know, I could, when me and say it was Matt and Lita or whatever, me and Matt would kind of put together the meat of the match. But with two girls, with Lita and Ivory, and two women like that, women I should say, not girls, but two women like that, you know, they know how good they are. They know what they can do. So it kind of all came together pretty easily. I didn't find anything difficult. Like I say, it was a little bit easier as a heel because you could go in there and, you know, if I grabbed Lita's foot or something, then you get this big boo because you just laid one finger on it. So that was a little bit easier. It's probably tougher for Matt in that situation because, you know, Ivory, I'm sure, would slap the shit out of him and he couldn't do anything until the end. At the end, I'm sure he would hit her with a twist of fate or something like that and get a big pop. But back in those days, we could, you know. I remember Lita would hurricane me all the time. And then I remember we did one really good tag match. I was teaming with Lance Storm, and against Matt and Jeff, but all the girls would feed in. You know, Molly came in, Ivory came in, Lita came in, and I think Jeff did his spot where he double legged. I want to say it was Ivory, and gave her the double leg drops to the midsection, which hurts women just as much as it hurts guys. I'm guessing. And Ivory sold it like $1 million. Lance Storm fed up. Here comes Lita with a hurricanrana, and then I went into whatever the finish was. But wrestling fans, when the women deserve it, they kind of come with it. As far as the man finally retaliating on them. But like I say, it's a weird situation.
Now, a lot of these are going to be tag-based. You had a pretty interesting tag career, obviously, between teaming with a super heavyweight, between teaming with other cruiserweights. But there was one, you had a flag match against La Resistance. What was that like? I know that the flag match is kind of cool in protecting someone because nobody gets pinned, nobody gets submitted. Anybody can climb up and grab a damn flag. What was that like for you?
I don't even remember that. Was that with Slaughter, or was that me and Rosie?
You and Rosie, June 14th, 2004, Monday Night Raw against Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier.
How do you win that match? I don't even know what
you're looking for. You climb up the pole and you grab a flag.
So you're telling me Rosie did not climb up this pole?
Apparently not. I think he lives like somewhat near me. Somebody said that they went and did his direct TV recently, and like he was there. Like, what?
Oh, they have. I don't remember that at all. I remember a flag match, but I don't remember what happened. I remember putting up a flag because they were doing that old school foreign heel heat with La Resistance, which I mean it was working at the time. Fans really disliked them fellers, but I don't remember that match. I mean, I'm sure any of those matches you climb a pole or something are kind of. The pole was in the corner. I'm guessing you got to climb that shit.
Yes.
Those to me, and I distinctly remember Eddie Guerrero climbing a pole in WCW, and he was all oiled up, and he kept sliding down the pole. It was fucking ridiculous. But you look ridiculous climbing a pole no matter what. So yeah, it's one of those things where even when you win, you're kind of like, yeah, that guy's climbing a pole, and it looks fucking stupid. So I like to know who climbed it because sometimes they're not that easy. Like I said, Eddie looked like he was on a damn slip and slide.
You have been on record before saying that the Battle Royal is one of the most dangerous matches, especially the Indie Battle Royal.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
You were in a Battle Royal, not just an Indie Battle Royal. You were in a Battle Royal promoted by the Insane Clown Posse one time at JCW. How were you? Were you like going in like, hey guys, listen, just so you know, I broke my neck once, so let's maybe just chill a little bit?
I'll tell you the funniest moment in there, not funniest, but most memorable to me was not only was my neck broke, also my ankle had been, fused together. My ankle and foot are fused. So my left foot and ankle are pretty much metal garbage. If I kick you with it now, I might knock your ass out, but it's not very flexible. And as I was getting thrown over that top rope, right then I'd realized I hadn't been thrown over the top rope since I hurt this foot. And I was like, man, I wonder what this is going to feel like. And so when I landed, it hurt like hell. And I was like, oh, I thought I'd hurt something again because there's a lot of scar tissue, and then the scar tissue pops and it sounds like your knuckles popping. And it hurts, but it's a temporary pain, but it's a sharp pain, but it kind of goes away, and I'm just sitting there holding my ankle going, damn, hoping I didn't hurt it again. But I'm selling like a bitch, And so here comes Zach Gowen flying over the top rope, laying right beside me. So I'm over here holding my hurt leg, but his ass ain't got but one leg. So I had to suck it up and go, oh, well, fuck it. And we picked each other up and helped each other up the ramp and just got out of there.
That is phenomenal. And also you were in a tag team battle royal. You were in a tag team battle royal where Matt and Jeff actually won the tag team titles. How's that any different? Like you got a teammate, but it's a battle royal.
When was that?
2007. You were with Chavo Guerrero.
And it was a battle royal? Wow. Cool. Yeah, I didn't remember that at all. I guess
I remember more of your career than you do, Shane.
Hey, I got that CTE like a motherfucker, I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, okay.
I guess so both, if one guy gets eliminated, or do both guys have to get eliminated?
I think one person and you're out. And by the way, Shawn Michaels and John Cena went into that match as tag champions. It was the night after WrestleMania.
Who went in as tag champions?
Cena and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I don't remember that shit at all.
And there was such luminaries as Kevin Thorne and Marcus Corvon. I thought Marcus Corvon, Monty Brown, I thought he was going to be something special.
Yeah. He left for family reasons, though. He didn't left because he couldn't succeed or anything. He made a personal decision to take care of his family. Monty Brown did. So got to add that asterisk in there to that.
Yeah, hope he's doing well. Like I always heard about that. Fake Twitter accounts pop up as him all the time. Like all the time, I see fake Monty Brown Twitter accounts. But staying on the tag team topic and a little bit of the Battle Royal topic, the Texas Tornado tag match. This is different from a regular tag match because everybody's in the ring at the same time. What are some of the difficulties that you face in that? You competed in one against Maven and Simon Dean.
I competed in one. I teamed with Simon Dean.
No, you competed against Maven and Simon Dean. You don't remember any of this shit.
Man, a lot of bumps, man. Who won?
Oh, look.
I generally remember shit.
You all did. Hey. It was a title match. It was May 23rd, 2005. You and Rosie defended your tag titles against Maven and Simon Dean. What are some of the challenges in a Texas Tornado match versus a typical tag team match?
Now that's everybody's in the ring at the same time. So the biggest challenge is you can easily be distracted by, if there's something you really want everybody to see, it's easy to get distracted if the other guys are out there fucking around, doing something. So that's the main thing. It's hard to focus on what's going on sometimes, which is, that's the challenge for any of those multi-man matches. It's hard to focus on important elements of the match at times. So, that's the biggest challenge. You guys do this and then we'll do this and you guys do this and you try to take turns so that, so that the full crowd and the TV crowd can see what needs to be seen. So that's the biggest challenge.
That seems like it'd be more challenging for the production team than actually the performers because the production team might not know who to focus on.
It is, but it's the job of the agent to kind of, send in cues or time cues. But so many of that stuff's like, a lot of that stuff's on the fly and ad lib, so that could be really difficult. That's why you need an agent on headset that has an eye for what to look for and knows what might be coming. And you need a producer on headset too that has been there, has been doing it for a long time. And there's nothing worse as a performer, say, than like you're climbing to the top rope to do a spot and the camera cuts to some crowd shot shooting some other shit while you're out there landing on your head. So in an ideal situation, you want somebody in that truck and somebody on headset that's been there before and is calling the action and knows what to look for.
It's question time, but I'm not letting one of the fans ask it yet. I want this question. From a performer standpoint and from an agent standpoint, whether it's individually or separate, what are the worst type of gimmick matches to have to work around?
I think just any of those anything goes weapon matches where they're all over the place. Those are the most difficult because you really lose psychology. That's the thing with those. You sacrifice psychology for stunts when you're doing those matches. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no psychology. There can be some, but it kind of goes out the window when you're just, you're trying to set up tables and find a place to use a ladder. And now you got a couple of the guys are out in the crowd fighting and, you want to shoot them sporadically so that they're not ignored in the story. But those can be challenging. Anytime you got, from an agent standpoint, and anytime you got these matches where there's, more than 2 or 4 people involved, man, it can be really difficult and really, challenging to get everybody the proper amount of screen time, to get everybody to be involved and do something good. So those are the most challenging to me. I'm old school, man. I like my favorite match is just a regular tag team match. That's my favorite type of match. Well,
you mentioned the multiple people. That was very much your career early on in WCW.
Yeah.
It was like 5, 6 people, whether it was singles matches, tag team matches. There were always a lot of people there. And it went from a situation where it was 3 count versus the Young Dragons to 3 teams where I think it was Jamie Noble left and I can't remember who the other one that left, the Young Dragons were, but they teamed up. Well,
no, it was Jamie and Evan Gray just got together.
There you go. Sorry about that. And then you had more offshoots of that.
Well, those are fine as long as it's still a tag match where you still got just the two guys in the ring. If the two guys are in the ring, we can still focus on that, and that's still your story. It only gets distracting when you got more than two guys in the ring at a time, and you're trying to focus on 2 different fights or 3 different fights or whatever the hell's going on. That's when it can get difficult, But no matter if it's a tag match, a 6-man, or even an 8-man match, if it's just 2 legal guys in the ring, that kind of makes it a little bit easier, and you can still focus on that story. And you can still have a really good psychological, outline of what's going to happen.
So around that same time, you were also in a few hardcore matches. You're technically a WCW hardcore champion because you all beat Brian Knobbs' ass.
I'm one of 2 people to be hardcore champion in WCW and WWF.
Look at you. One of 2. Look at you.
See that shit right there, kid?
Hey, are you the only person to be WWE and WCW Cruiserweight and Hardcore champion?
Yes.
That's fancy. That's fancy. What was your reaction when you were told? What was your reaction when you were told, "Hey, you're going to have a hardcore title run"?
Well, that was our first. That was the first major championship, And I know the hardcore title is not exactly at the top of the hierarchy there, but it's still a championship with one of the biggest companies in the world. So we were fine with it, But those hardcore matches, man, in WCW, man, it would be like lead pipes and shit that they would have. So what we would do is we would distract Brian Knobbs, me, Shannon, and Evan.
Not hard
Jimmy
to
Hart
do.
would go. Yeah, not hard to do. And Jimmy Hart would sneak around and take all of the dangerous items out of the fucking shopping cart, the ones that would actually kill us. So Jimmy Hart was on our side because it'd be axe handles in there. And these matches were designed that we're getting our ass kicked, So we're the ones getting hit with these knobs. And I know one time when we finally lost the title to him, we beat the shit out of him with them chairs. For like 3 weeks. And we're like, man, we didn't say nothing when you're beating the hell out of us. But when we came back with those chairs, I was swinging with that shit with all my life.
So you all were co-hardcore champions. He beat you back for the title at Uncensored. Now, that wasn't the only – we talked about how you also won it in the WWF. One of the more famous or infamous spots was
real
Molly.
Quick, I'll tell you this, though. When we lost it, there was a spot in that match where I think Shannon was pinning Brian Knobbs. And I might be messing it up, but I think it was Shannon pinning Brian Knobbs. And Brian put his foot on the rope, and the referee stopped the count. So after the match, I was talking to Kevin Sullivan. I was like, yeah, that was kind of a fuck up, though, because it's a hardcore match. Anything goes. Who cares if his foot's on the rope? And Kevin thought about it, and then he goes, do you want the belt back? And I said, nope. Kevin was great. He goes, you want the belt back? No.
That's good stuff. As I mentioned, you had a hardcore title run in WWE. One of the more infamous spots, obviously, was Molly Holly knocking the shit out of you with a frying pan. Now, as you mentioned before, that sounded real because it's a real frying pan. Were there any weapons that, whether WCW or WB, would kind of, I don't want to say fake because that's not the right term to use when you're using weapons. Are there any that were made to be a little more forgivable?
Some were easy. The cookie sheets would bend and they would look a little bit more rough than they were. And the trash cans, it's like they were easy in comparison to steel chairs. It was still, you're getting bashed in the head. So there were some that were easier than others, but none of them were easy. They might gimmick some things back in the day so they break easier. But I know in WCW, they wouldn't gimmick shit. They were just breaking the hell in our matches anyway. So I don't think they cared about 3 count too much. They didn't care about our health care. But yeah, so it shit all kind of hurt. And I remember with that frying pan, like it was this hard ass rubber mallet thing. That's what it was made out of. Wasn't like cast iron, but it was something that would bash my damn head apart. And we were about to film this. And I just remember telling the sound guys and the lighting guys, and I can't remember who was producing this segment. You know, it could have been Bruce Pritchard or might have been Brian Gewirtz or somebody was producing it. But anyway, I told everybody, I said, if something's fucked up, if there's a microphone in the shot or the lighting isn't good, y'all stop us before she bashed me with this fucking frying pan, because this shit's only going to happen once. And because I mean, the other idea is that she just like hits me in the leg with it or something. I was like, no, you know, it's going to look better up top and, you know, toward the back of the head. So I'll do that, and I'll do it. It's WrestleMania. You know, I won a hardcore title at WrestleMania, so I'm happy, and it's okay. I'm gonna lose it, and I'm gonna get bashed in the head. I'm gonna make it look as good as I can, but I don't want to go to the damn hospital either. So stop me before she swings this shit if it ain't perfect.
Knowing what you know now about brain injuries, would you have done that?
Well, I mean, well, that one really hit me toward the top of the neck. You know, I did a very good whiplash of that head, so it didn't touch my head, hit me toward the top of the neck and back. I mean, but anytime you get a whiplash, it rattles your brain around. So I probably still would have done a lot of stuff. I was never really big on getting bashed in the head with chairs and shit anyway. So, I mean, I knew that couldn't be good. You know, I mean, I was never one of those guys go, wow, really? Concussions are bad for you? You know, it was kind of obvious to me that shit like that would be bad. I don't think anybody thought that they would be as bad. You know, we thought it was something that you just get over. And I mean, you might be, you know, whatever, silly for a day or two. Nobody really ever thought it would have lasting long-term effects that it does. But it makes sense. You know, you can't put your brain in a sling. You know, you hurt your brain, it's generally going to stick around for a while, if not forever.
I'm not going to get too much into the Molly Holly thing, because I think that's a good topic for a future show. Maybe some of your valets, because you had Stacy and Tank Abbott.
I had
Tank Abbott, the sexiest.
Had all the women and Tank Abbott.
I'll say Molly Holly is a girl that I would really like to see if they ever need an opponent for somebody in NXT. I loved Molly Holly. I thought that she was great. I was sad to see her retire so early, but she seems to be doing well.
Yeah.
So the hardcore matches naturally lead into a match that really helped put you on the map, Shane, these ladder matches. In a time where I thought WCW was getting kind of hard to watch, these ladder matches and that feud was one of the things that made me take notice. Now, before we get to that, you were slated, well, on TV, slated to be a part of a TLC match, but they pulled you maybe in an effort to make Kane more sympathetic from that TLC match. How did you find out about all that and that you wouldn't be involved? And what was your reaction to that? Because you were kind of known for ladder matches.
I found out that day, you know, just early in, when I got to the building, I met with everybody, and that's when I found out. And yeah, it sucks. And I mean, I knew it sucked right away, but you know, maybe I was just like, man, does this really suck because it's just me? Because I wanted to be in this match and I should have been in the match. But in post, everybody knew it was a terrible idea to take me out of the deal. So, but it was done at that point. You know, you can't turn a pickle back into a cucumber. So it was already done at that point. But it did suck, and we all knew it sucked.
I thought that was a little weird. I mean, Kane, not exactly known for ladder matches. I felt like they had that overwhelming monster baby face with the sympathetic baby face.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you told that you were pulled from that?
I mean, just like that. That's what they needed, sympathy on Kane, and it's hard to get sympathy on the Incredible Hulk. You know, that's why they beat up the Avengers, and the Hulk makes the save. It's hard to beat the Hulk up, and that's mainly what it was. And you know, and Hunter stepped up, and like he'll be the one to take me out. You know, so and not just do one little tiny thing to go out there and really beat my ass. So. I think I even suggested, like, can I just do something at the end where I stagger out and try to do something and it doesn't work? And they were like, yeah, but that takes the emphasis off of this story. And in that aspect, they were right. But I still think that we could have done, I could have been out there and got taken out early, and nobody would have thought any less of Kane or whatever, you know, or any less of the match. So dumb decision, it happens. But it wasn't my call. I would have been in there for sure.
Yeah, I was actually disappointed. I remember watching that. I was like, man, this is one of the guys that
it was just total disappointment. And when your character is a superhero and you don't come to save the day when your own partner, it just really, you know, highlighted, you know, and made me look bad, and you know, didn't make me look good at all.
Did anybody backstage, like at the top level, say in retrospect this was a bad idea?
Oh, everybody. No, all the guys in the match agreed, so everybody knew it was a bad idea.
Well, speaking of those ladder matches that kept me watching WCW at that point, you had the one against Jamie Noble, Kaz Hayashi, and Yang at New Blood Rising, and then you had the three-way ladder match at Starrcade. And that one at Starrcade, damn, that was something to behold. That was, I remember, I think Dave Meltzer rated that like 4 stars. And this was 6 guys that maybe a year before, nobody had a damn clue who they were. And you all went out and stole the show. Not just stole the show, stole it at Starrcade. You got Goldberg, you got Sid, you got Luger, you got like these people, DDP, Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Rey Mysterio, and you guys stole the show. What kind of feeling was that? Because you all opened the show. Poor Lance Storm and Ernest Miller had to follow you guys.
Yeah, that was definitely a match you shouldn't open with. But they were kind of in that habit of opening with us, and they shouldn't have at that particular point. I'm very proud of that one. That was one of my matches that I'm most proud of. I laid out probably 80% of that match, and not that I told the guys what moves to do, but I just laid it out. Said, okay, now here, Shannon, you do something. Boom. Okay, now Yang, here's where you need to do something. And so, so I was very proud of that. But everybody really, stepped up and pulled their weight. And that was definitely WCW's best ladder match of all time. And even though WWE had to admit it when they made the best of the ladder match DVDs, they put us on that. So it was good, And it was that moment when I did the swinging neck breaker off of Jamie Noble, and I just looked to the crowd. Matt called me after that, and I remember Canyon saying something along the lines too. He's like, "That was a star-making spot right there." So that's when you look like you were a star. And so I always remember him saying that. If there's one thing I did wrong in there, and it's because time was running out. We needed to get out of there. I think we went over a couple minutes. When me and Shannon finally got the contract, we should have stood up there and stayed up there longer. But if you'll notice, if you go back and ever watch, we grab it and we got the hell out of there. But it's because we're running out of time. But seeing how we were already overtime, we should have stood up there and got more of that glory shot and just let that crowd know. Yeah, we know we stole the show, and we're letting you know that we know. We should have stayed up there and got more of that glory shot.
Shane, in doing some research for this, I didn't see any cage matches listed like on your match listings, anything like that. I'm sure you've been in a cage match. What experience do you have there?
Yeah, my very first cage match actually was with the fantastic Bobby Fulton. I was a replacement for Ricky Morton, who couldn't make the show. And this was an indie show back in the day. So maybe it was pre-WCW, so it could have been 97, 99. And I remember, going over the match with Bobby. I was like, yeah, I'll just jump off the top of the cage. I'll miss something, And, his finish was the power driver. I was like, yeah, I'll just jump off the top and miss something. Brother, you sure you want to do that, Mom? I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. And I was crazy as hell back then anyway. And so anyway, I hadn't seen the cage at this point. I go out there and that cage is 30 fucking foot high. Like you could stand on the top turnbuckle and not reach the top of this cage. I was like, holy God. And it's all rickety and shit. And it's like, it's not a professional cage at all. And at some point in the match, Bobby had thrown me, and we're having a real good match, and Bobby was a real good worker. And I got thrown over the top rope, and I hit the cage and slid down. As I said earlier, it was a piece of shit cage, and there was a piece of barb or something that was sticking out, and it cut me from the back of this shoulder all the way down my back to the kidney area on the other side. And most of it was a surface scratch, but it was about an area about this long that was pretty deep. And I landed on my back, it just felt like a burn. It didn't feel like nothing. But when I rolled over, there's a puddle of blood there. And Bobby Fulton was a bloodophobe at the time. He's oh my God, he just started freaking out. And in his career, he was a guy that, red equals money, red equals green type guy. You know what I mean? So he's one of them, but I don't know what made him change his mind, but he was a, germaphobe, bloodophobe, or whatever at this point. So he kind of freaked out a little bit about all that blood. It's like, brother, you're bleeding bad. And I looked down and I saw this puddle. I was like, shit. Because, like to me, it didn't even hurt. I just know, man, do I got to go to the fucking hospital? That's that pro wrestler mentality. Like, such an aggravation to have to go to the hospital. And I was like, man, fuck. And he goes, you still want to jump off that cage? And I go, hell no. And he punched me in the dick and pinned me. Yeah, that is. He might have did the power jumper too, but I just remember he punched me in the dick, and then there could have been a power jumper there. I don't know, but I know I got pinned. It was like, fuck it.
Oh man.
And we didn't even go to the hospital either. We just somebody had some kind of adhesive that they put on me, like some kind of medical adhesive, and we used. It wasn't exactly Scotch tape, but it was some bullshit tape, and we just squeezed my skin together and taped it up.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, kids. I know. Indie guys today don't know how good they got it.
Oh man. Well, I rally against Kentucky regulating pro wrestling. Then I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, maybe.
Ah, man, I was fine, man. I went home and took some Robitussin, and I was good.
Oh man. Been in any cage matches since then?
There was one other on Indies. No cage matches on a professional, like a WCW or WWE at all. No. To be in the War Games. That's the one I want to be in.
Oh man, well, we'll talk about that. War Games. It's a concept that WWE hasn't embraced, which is weird to me because they have the Elimination Chamber structure, which seems like I've said before, if WCW could have designed that back then, they probably would have. They would have had little pods to release people instead of making them open the door and run in. It seems like a natural concept. I know Vince didn't like the idea.
That's a derivative, obviously, of the War Games is the Elimination Chamber. The War Games is just a much better name. The War Games begin. That was always bad. There's a company in North Carolina, I want to say it's PWX, that actually does the War Games. They got the 2 rings. Yeah, I think they got the 2 rings. I can't remember shit. But I know they did a War Games match, so I'm assuming it should have been 2 rings. If not, that's some bullshit.
Speaking of Elimination Chamber, that's a pretty popular match. Well, I don't want to say popular, but it's a prominent match these days. Have you been in an Elimination Chamber match?
Mm-mm. I just fucking said that, Sap.
Sorry.
Damn.
I'm losing you a little bit. Even the Orlando internet is trash.
Me now. I'm in a super wide. This is your bullshit Wi-Fi.
Come on, hotel internet.
I teleported to a new location.
You're gonna tell me that hotel internet? Come on, hotel internet is trash.
Man, you got that Kentucky Fried Wi-Fi, and that's what's fucked up.
I got Time Warner, buddy. I got Time Warner. You got heat with Time Warner?
I do got heat with Time Warner.
Maybe that's it.
It got nothing to do with nothing, but I'll tell you this. One week, my internet and cable all went out. And then we're going to come fix it for like 6 days. And I do a lot of business on the internet, as much as yourself does. Like 6 days, I can't be out with my shit and TV for 6 days. My neighbor worked for DirecTV. So ching, 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 I give his ass a call. Asked him, can he hook me up? He goes, yep. So I called Time Warner back and I said, come get your shit. And they said, whatever, we'll be there Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And I said, listen, I'm not waiting for your ass at all. I said, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, if you're not here, I'm putting your shit out by the road. All your equipment. And she goes, sir, you can't just put our equipment by the road. And I go, I promise you there's no law that forces me to keep your shit in my house. Wednesday, 1 o'clock, shit's going by the road. And so when they finally called me Wednesday, they were on time like hell too. And they called me and asked me to verify the house. I said, yeah, look for the DirecTV van. I'm right beside it. And the guy started laughing. I said, I'm not joking. I said, that's where I'm at. My shit's already installed. All you gotta do is pick it up. You
legit broke up with your cable provider.
Yeah, I said, we done. And when I do breakups, I don't go back together. It's over.
Did Time Warner call you later? I left some CDs at your house. Anything?
Get the hell out of here.
Damn. I mean, it's only right after the end of WCW. You had to kick Time Warner in the ass a little bit, right?
Yeah, right. That's probably it. There was some residual heat, that subliminal that I didn't think about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Inferno match. You have any desire to ever be in one of those?
Fuck no, they're stupid.
I thought they were stupid too. And usually the way that they end, it's like you catch somebody's hand on fire barely. I know MVP caught his whole ass on fire one time. That was scary.
The stuff that we did in Total Nonstop Deletion with the Hardys and Decay and you know, fighting through the fire stuff, that was way better than any Inferno match ever.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was pulled off pretty. That was pulled off pretty damn well. I mean, as you said on another show, you're setting up shots and you're like, well, we got to make sure that the volcano is ready.
Yeah, yeah. So that was better than any Inferno match I've seen. So I tell you what, I had to follow an Inferno match one time, and this was a fucking stupid. The show was laid out brutal. I had a match with Jimmy Wang Yang, and the match itself was good, but we had to follow it. Like the show started with an Inferno match, and then there was a ladder match. The ladder match in which Joey Mercury got his face cut off, and his eyeballs. God. And then it was like a grudge match with Benoit and Chavo. And then me and Jimmy Yang had to go out and have a wrestling match after all that shit. And we're like, well, gee, fucking thanks. You know, you saw one guy get set on fire. You got one guy get his head cut off. Then you got this grudge match. And now me and Jimmy Yang got to go out there and work a body part. I was like, God damn. And the match, like the crowd just, you know, after everything they seen, they were bloodthirsty at that point. And it wasn't their fault. I mean, that's the way, you know, that was the mood and tone that was set. So, I mean, this definitely wasn't a match they wanted to see. We got them toward the end by just working our ass off, but the crowd reaction was, you know, wasn't what we wanted. But it was the worst spot to be on in an entire card. It was in that particular spot. So, bastards. That's my Inferno match story. That's all I got.
You were a part of one of my favorite Survivor Series matches of all time when you and your boys got shit kicked. By Shawn Michaels, Triple H, CM Punk, and the Hardys. That was
almost had it.
I loved it. I loved that. Like Shawn Michaels. Do you still have heat with Shawn Michaels?
No, hell no. I thought we addressed that before. No, not at all.
No. Well, I love the opening of that match. He kicks Mike Knox, and he's like, "Is he a part of the match?"
Yeah, yeah. that was a bad spot for Mike. You know, it was funny, but
yeah.
Like, you got to imagine that, you know, if you're Mike Knox, you know, nobody looks at it from his point of view or whatever. You know, I felt bad for him. And actually, they was just going to super kick him without any setup. Mm-hmm. And I came up with the idea that Hunter tries to he gets distracted by Hunter trying to go to Kelly and get her to show a gimmicks, because Kelly was an exhibitionist on the show, ECW anyway. So that was kind of her deal. And it kind of got her involved, and, you know, it put over the DX thing. And then at least Mike Knox had a reason to get distracted instead of like just walking over and Shawn kicked him in the face. So that was me really trying to help, you know, the situation out, because I kind of felt bad for Mike. I mean, Mike's a professional. He might not even giving a shit. But I mean, if you got to think you're in a big setting like the Survivor Series, it was the co-main event, big match, you know, a lot of build up to the match, and then to just get taken out like that, man, it's kind of a shitty way to do it. But it was entertaining, and at the end of the day, we're entertainers. So, I mean, it worked. But
that was a pretty prominent spot for you. I know you had been working on and off with Matt Hardy before that. You had worked with The Undertaker right before that, Rey Mysterio right before that. So, I mean, this is nothing new for you. But what was your reaction when they're like, hey, you're going to be in this match? And it's, you know, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, they've obviously always protected at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected. I was kind of, you know, it was weird about what the eliminations were going to be, but I was one of the guys that agreed, like, let's do the 5-0 thing. I think that only been done one time before, and actually at the time, I couldn't remember it ever being done before. And shocking with my great memory, as you noticed. But my memory's better for things that I've seen than things I've actually been in, you know. But I couldn't recall that ever happening. So I was like, oh, but I mean, this actually would be cool. I mean, especially if it's done right, you know, and you could build it up. And with Orton and Edge being those chicken shit heels, man, I really felt like if you build it up to it's just them two with the great facials and the great body English that they have, that they could really sell it, you know. So I wasn't concerned, and I definitely didn't give a shit about, oh, you guys got shut out. Like, man, shut the fuck up. We know what's going down. So, but I was all for that, you know, it going down the way it did. You know, just as long as everybody looks good, you know.
Yeah, that's a memorable thing too. Like, I remember that match. I don't remember a lot of Survivor Series matches. I've seen 100 of them, and I remember 4 or 5 of them really. Also, you mentioned running the table. I think the Big Show did it by himself once, but it was like a bunch of like mid-card guys at the time. That's around the time Big Boss Man was driving his dad's casket around the hood, I believe.
Oh yeah. Another tidbit from that match, I'd broken my hand 2 days before that, and if you'll notice, my right hand is heavily taped, and I had a boxer break with a bone that actually popped up, and we had to push it back down.
You mentioned that you get a lot of those boxer breaks. What necessarily is that from? Just punches that connect?
Yeah, and two, like I have a real hard swing. You know, I got 2 plates and 14 screws in my forearm, so that adds weight to my punch that normally wouldn't be there, you know, somebody else. You know, and being a fast guy, you know, a lot of torque and I got a lot of power behind my punch. And sometimes, you know, the bones just say, fuck it. All right, man, you need to stop that shit. That's why people wear gloves. So, I mean, a lot of boxers get them. It's not nothing uncommon. If you do a lot of punching, you can do it on punching bags too. If you kind of twist of your wrist, if you're not taped properly and stuff like that. So, I mean, it only happened a couple of times, but once it starts happening, it's a reoccurring thing because you got those little bones. And once either one of them kind of get out of alignment, it kind of fucks up the whole. It's like the phalanx in 300. You know, if you get one of the shield moves out of place, it fucks up the whole thing. But yeah, if you watch that match back, my right hand's all big. I do when I get tagged in, you know, I'm in the zone, so I'm not thinking about it. I go over there and blast Matt Hardy, and, you know, because it hurt being in control, so I couldn't sell it to the crowd, but it hurt like shit.
Now, you've agented several gimmick matches. Or I don't know which ones you agented individually, but I know that you've worked a lot with the X division, and Ultimate X is a very prominent match, and it's sort of an offshoot of a ladder match. You're going up and grabbing something. What type of unique challenges does that present?
I mean, as I said before, the biggest challenge of those matches is to not have too much shit so that you lose, you lose focus on what's going on, the main meat of the story. And I really go out of my way in those matches, even when I'm involved in them, but also as an agent too. I try to highlight everybody a little bit. You know, I don't want anybody to be out there in these matches and they just get nothing in. Because I've been in matches where that happened to guys, and I've been in matches with agents where there were people in the match that they just didn't give a fuck about. And I just always felt like there were missed opportunities. Like if you're out there, if you're in the ring, there's an opportunity to show somebody something, you know. With the Rumble, with the Bushwhacker spot, and that's why I went out of my way to try to make it as a very short window to make that moment mean something. You know, if I just walked in there and got thrown out, nobody would have given a fuck, you know. And so that's the challenge in those matches, you know, once again, to keep everything focused, but also to highlight everybody and make sure everybody comes out looking like a star. You know, I don't like matches where guys come out looking like shit.
TNA also has the King of the Mountain match. I don't know if you've been around since they've done one. Unique set of rules they have there with the penalty box and all that. What are your feelings on that type of match?
That shit is convoluted as hell. It's convoluted. I think it could be something done once a year, but I wouldn't do it much more than that. But the last one that they did, TNA, when Jeff Jarrett was in it, man, there was a lot of drama in that one, and that one was really good, you know. And once it gets underway, you understand what's going on. It's harder to explain it than it is to actually execute it, you know. And it's harder for fans. Once fans see it and see what's happening, then they get it. But just as far as to tell somebody the rules, you're like, what the fuck are you saying? You know, the whole penalty box, and you got to get pinned to be able to climb the ladder, and you hang the belt instead of getting it down. You know, it's a weird thing. But once people see it, it gets okay. And but also, I mean, those matches always are better when you got like intertwining storylines going on, and you got somebody that people cares about. Like all matches, you know, if you got a personality that the people are really behind, that helps a lot in gimmick matches. A gimmick match that nobody cares about, you know, why are you even doing a gimmick match if you understand?
I've noticed TNA has laid off the gimmick matches heavily in the last 2 years. That I mean, they mean a lot more when they happen. You don't see like a ton of gimmick matches all over the place.
I think we do a damn lot of gimmick matches.
It seems like, I mean, well, at least on like the one night onlys and stuff, I've noticed that they don't happen as much as they used to. Do you think they should lay off?
Well, it depends. If that's what the people want to see, then you kind of a little bit. But if you do more, you know, the traditionalist in me likes to see wrestling matches, and then when things get heated, then we go to a gimmick match. But you know, I think we do a lot of gimmick matches. You know, but like I said, sometimes that if that moves the needle, and that's what the people want to see, we have to work around that. But I always like to have a good story to explain the gimmick match. The gimmick for the sake of gimmick doesn't do it for me.
Tables matches. Do you like the rule that you have to be put through the table? You can't just be moved out of the way and somebody like runs into it. And have you been in any tables matches?
Oh yeah, I've been in several tables matches. I don't really care about the rule. I mean, I feel like you should be put through it. You know, if you put yourself through it, I mean, I don't know. If the person goes through a table, they go through a table. If that's the rule, that's how it's written. You know, if it is written, that, you know, whoever goes to a table first loses. Well, if you accidentally put yourself through a table, I mean, in a battle royal, if you accidentally, you know, fall over the top rope, you still lose. So if that's the rule, that's the rule. But I think I like the endings better when it's an emphatic, somebody gets put through the table by somebody else.
Tag Team Apocalypto. It's a hell of a gimmick match.
Game changer.
It is a game changer.
Right? Yeah.
What would you compare it to? Have you ever been a part of anything like that?
It was like a wrestling video game set in a Mortal Kombat universe, is what I would say. You know, which on a tidbit, I suggested a Mortal Kombat versus WWE game to WWE one time, and they didn't bite. It's a good concept.
What'd they say?
They don't listen to nobody there. They'll take all the advice in the world from some third party asshole. The people in the company give them some ideas and they won't use it half the time. The
crazy thing is they had the same developer as Mortal Kombat at one point. The WrestleMania, the arcade game, and In Your House, it was made the same exact way.
I also had a layout for WWE versus DC or Marvel, where some of the WWE guys would get powers at a certain time. It would be like a Mortal Kombat type fighting game, but they would all get superpowers when they needed it, just like our Mortal Kombat, you could get those abilities. But yeah, I think fans would buy either one of those. So
WWE All-Stars was a very favorite game. It was a very fun game. It was arcade-ish like that.
Yeah. But that's what I would compare a Tag Team Apocalypto to, is a wrestling match set in the Mortal Kombat universe. That's a great analogy.
What are your feelings on like Taipei death matches, barbed wire matches, like all these like blood and guts types of matches?
I don't want to be in them. You know, if that's what the guys want to do, and if there are fans that want to see it, you know, if there's an audience for it, there's an audience for it. You know, I didn't like watching Saw. You know, and people loved Saw. I know the girl I was dating at the time. She loved going to Saw, and I would be looking at her in the theater like, bitch, like, what is wrong with you? Like, they're just guts, you know. When a gore for the sake of gore doesn't impress me, you know. Like, if it adds to the story or something like that, then, you know, I'm all for that. But that's like the first episode of Walking Dead this year, man. Man, I don't want to see that. I've seen somebody literally murdered, and I felt worse watching The Walking Dead after that shit. I'm like, God damn. You know, so there's death matches. I kind of feel the same way. It's gore for the sake of gore. I don't think it takes as much talent, but it takes a lot more balls and it takes a lot more toughness. So I don't want to do it. You know, I don't want to go home and be mangled. You know, if it, you know, and in a wrestling ring, that shit was hard way. You know, you had to earn my blood. I'm not about to go out there and do some of that silly shit. You know, as far as thumbtacks and stuff like that in matches, you know, okay, not too bad, but going through the glass and the ring exploding and the barbed wires, to go in there with the idea that I'm going to just shred my body apart, that's not for me. I'm not saying don't do it. If there's an audience for it, do what you want to do. And everybody's a grown man. I ain't never seen anybody forced into one of these matches. So, you know, that's up for them to decide.
Do you think that Negan in The Walking Dead has a barbed wire baseball bat if it's never happened in pro wrestling before that?
I don't know, man. I mean, that shit looks familiar. All I'm saying is it looks familiar.
Yeah. Wonder if he would have ever seen Janice if he would have had one of those.
We got to do Lucille versus Janice. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
That can only happen in Tag Team Apocalypto.
That's the beauty of Tag Team Apocalypto. Is it Janice actually got to be used?
Janice worked. That might be Janice's first victory.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I was explaining that to my wife, and I was like, that's monumental. That thing's been around for years, and usually it just gets stuck in a turnbuckle pad. Not this time. The beauty of that storyline, which, by the way, the deletion storyline won Angle of the Year in our voting, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Blew everything out of the water. It got like 50% of the vote.
It should.
That was phenomenal. Lumberjack matches. How much are you told going in? Like, you got to do this. You got to beat the shit out of certain guys.
A lot of that just kind of happens. You know, a lot of that just kind of happens. So, and two, when it's on TV, all the Lumberjacks are clamoring for TV time. So they're trying to get their shit in on TV. So they're all rushing over to the TV side, you know, opposite hard cam so they can be seen. So that's a funny thing. If you'll notice with the Lumberjacks, they're all trying to get a lick in, not necessarily to hurt the guy, but just to get that little TV moment. But it's a good match for ribs to happen too. You know, if there's somebody down there, you could be like kicking the shit out of him. You know, for somebody you like, you might take care of him. But that's one of those matches where a lot of little ribs happen. And just regular battle royals. Because all the time somebody fucking with you in a battle royal too.
A lot of potatoes thrown in the Lumberjack matches. It seems like, because they always break down.
Yeah. Lumberjack matches never go the way as you plan. You know, not on paper. But yeah, a lot of potatoes. You know, especially when you're that guy on the floor and they're kicking the shit out of you. And two, even more so if there's one of those Lumberjack strap matches and you have a guy out there like, you know, a Kurt Hennig or a Rick Steiner, some of those guys that like to just lay it in to be funny, and they'll be ripping the shit out of you. You know, luckily I was never on the end of any of that. I never been a fan of that strap match. I don't know if you were going to mention them coming up, but the hell with those.
Yeah. I have actually strap matches is second to next. We have like 3 or 4 left, but strap matches. Now I grew up in the 90s. So the first strap match I really remember is the Caribbean strap match, Savio Vega and Steve Austin. And that was the first one I remembered. But versions of that had went on forever. I would later find out about like the dog collar match. And of course, The Rock and Triple H had a strap match. What do you think about those? Had you ever been in one?
No, I've never been in one and have no desire to ever be in one. We just had one on TNA not too long ago, the Tribunal against Al Snow and Shera. And not the greatest match of all time, but you know, Al put a lot into it toward the end and got the crowd with it some, at least by taking them damn strap shots and then delivered them when it came time to deliver them. No, I don't want to be in one of those, man. That shit hurts. The first one I ever remember seeing, Wahoo McDaniel used to do a lot of them back in the Mid-Atlantic area, and then like Dog Call as you first. So I mean, the first one of those wasn't the infamous Roddy Piper one. There was Barry Windham and the Junkyard Dog used to be in those dog collar matches quite a bit, so I've seen them before. But the Roddy Piper, Greg Valentine at Starrcade '83 was probably the most famous of those dog collar matches. But yeah, it seems like I've been in a chain match on the Indies, and I remember accidentally getting whacked in the head with the chain, like somebody was swinging it and it hit me in the damn head, and you know, gigged me open a little bit. So. Yeah, I'm not. They don't gimmick those chains either. They're fucking real steel dog collar chains. You know, I'm not a fan of that shit. I'm not a fan of anything that makes blood leave my body. I like my blood on the inside, and that's just me. Call me crazy.
We also have like these container-based matches, like Buried Alive and casket matches and ambulance matches and stretcher matches, where you got to put your opponent in something. What do you think about those? It's a concept that you basically add a little gimmick to.
Yeah. I mean, those are still basically street fights, and then you just dump the guy in some shit instead of a 1, 2, 3. They can be done good. I've seen them done, kind of flat. Ambulance one is always pretty cool, especially when you see the ambulance pulling out and he's done. The casket match, generally does the Taker thing, and Taker can pretty much, make chicken salad out of anything. So those are generally always good anyway. I don't think I've ever seen a Buried Alive by anybody else other than Taker. Is there a wind going on? Do you hear that?
I hear it, but I mean, it's not that bad. Now the greatest
hotel. This microphone.
The greatest gimmick match of all time. The hog pin match.
Yeah. No, thank you. That would be a no, thank you, because they know
did you ever
what they
notice,
put in that shit.
Did you ever notice the scar on Triple H's back that he got from that match?
No.
Kevin Nash was telling a story about how when he came back and wrestled Triple H in like 2011, he said that he was like what he was selling and he was looking at Triple H and he noticed the scar like from like 16, 17 years before that I guess he got. And like there was legitimately pig shit that he was rolling around in with that cut.
So he got infected?
I would imagine.
Think it was real pig shit?
Yeah, I think so. There were real pigs in there.
I guess you might be right. Doesn't seem like that's fucking safe. Was there an E. coli test?
Shoot pigs, as you would say in the business, I guess. They were not working.
Why would you want to shoot pigs?
Well, I mean, people do. Pigs are terrifying. Have you ever seen pigs in the wild?
Yeah. They're boring.
Fuck. Wow. Beat the clock match. You were in one of these with Booker T.
I think I've been in a couple of those. Yeah. They're okay. It just depends on how much time you got. But too, like the whole going for a pin as much as you can sometimes kind of disrupts the normal psychology you want to have in a match. But it's a gimmick. That was neither here nor there. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. You know, I'm indifferent, which is the worst thing to be. So I guess I don't like it.
How were the Raw roulette wheels done? Did you have to do like a billion takes until you got one right?
No, I think they did the. I think what the fuck was that? I wasn't in a lot of one. I was in one where you had to do it chase a midget. That was the gimmick. It was capture the midget. I know you're not supposed to say midget anymore, but I'm just reiterating, or that's what was said. That's what it was. I think that was gimmick. Yeah, I think it was because there was a midget mysteriously there, so it had to be. And it just happened to show up at that time. Yeah,
I was sure it was gimmicked, but I mean, I didn't know if they just did like a billion takes till they got the result they wanted, or what happened there.
I'm sure there was some gimmick. I can't remember even thinking about it, but it stopped right on that capture the midget thing every time. So there had to be a way to set it.
You mentioned tag team matches are your favorite kind. What are your favorite kind of gimmick matches to watch and then to perform in?
My favorite one to watch by far is the Rumble, the Royal Rumble. That's my favorite one to watch by far. I'm a big fan of entrances, and I think that's one of the things that I think pro wrestling fans love, a good entrance. And you get 30 entrances in this one match. So, and a good entrance and good entrance music, man, can kind of keep things going. There's certain talents that are over just because of this song. That song hits, and you want to jam to the song, and then once they get in the ring, you're kind of like, whatever, But the music's good, you can jam to it, and that kind of keeps you in a good mood, So I actually won an argument with the agents in a talent meeting in WWE one time about that, because some of the old school agents it was like, if a heel's in the ring and a babyface makes an entrance and he goes up with his back to the heel, why wouldn't the heel go just attack him? And I was just like, I just spoke up and I was like, I really disagree, because they were saying that wasn't realistic to turn your back on the heel. And I'm like, actually it is, because if boxing and MMA, you never see somebody just fighting before the fucking bell. It's not like you watch an NBA game and while one team's coming out, the other team's up there scoring layups. It is realistic. And I was like, and I use Triple H as an example here. Say, if I'm a fan, I want to see Triple H, see Undertaker's entrance. I want to see Rock Stone Cold. I say entrance is a big part of the pageant. And I actually won the argument. And it's hard to win an argument with those agents, especially in talent meetings, because you don't want to make the agents look bad. But I was like, man, no, you got that. Entrances are good. So anyway, that's why, long story short, that's why the Rumble's my favorite.
Have you ever pitched any gimmick matches that didn't come to be, like any ideas of matches? And have you ever had any ideas of gimmick matches that just never developed?
No, that was never really something I thought a lot about, I'm sure that's something in the coming months that will, I'll have to do. But but no, it was nothing. You know, like I say, I'm a traditionalist when it comes to the wrestling. So that was never something I thought too much about. And 9 times out of 10, when I was in a gimmick match, I was always just like, why can't we just do a regular wrestling match? You know, I mean, the strength of that Hurricane character, you know, it's easy to fall back on that. I was like, you know, I don't need a gimmick match with Hurricane. I am a fucking gimmick. Every match I'm in is a gimmick match, you know.
Now, before we wrap up,
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
You were in the ending days of WCW, and sorry, Vince, there were some pretty terrible fucking gimmick matches around then. Were there any gimmick matches that you had heard of that got pitched and didn't make it to air? Because if that's the shit that made air, I can't imagine what didn't.
No, I mean, not that I can recall, you know. But yeah, there were a lot of really bad gimmick matches there, really silly stipulations with a lot of stuff. But you know, I mean, that's what made Vince Vince. He would try a lot of shit, and a lot of shit worked, and a lot of shit didn't. So, but the ones that didn't were real fucking stinkers, you know. But the ones that did were really good. So, you know, you got to give him credit. But also, there's that other, you know, Judy Bagwell on a pole match joke that everybody talks about.
I was about to mention that. So, had you and Buff Bagwell fought backstage, and Judy Bagwell was right next to you all on a forklift, would that have made you perform better or worse?
I would have thrown a towel on that one. I would have tapped out. But what actually happened is I would have had to take Judy home, and damn, that would have been even worse.
Oh, no. Okay, now before we go, obviously some changes in TNA. They sent me a press release. Anthem did. I know you're not
sent it to you personally.
They did. Anthem.
You on the good list? I like it.
Anthem.
I like it.
To me, yeah.
No,
I know you can't discuss a whole lot, but I mean, I showed you the press release, and this was about the time a lot of TNA talents were landing, like a lot of them. Yeah. So what's your reaction to hearing this news? Dixie Carter, she's resigned as chairman. Anthem has started a new parent company, and Dixie's going to serve on a board of advisors and is still a minority owner.
That's what we're going with. So, I mean, I've kind of heard about this for a little bit now. It's something I had to sit on. It wasn't my announcement to make, you know, and I wouldn't disrespect my company or, you know, break the trust of my company or peers by, you know, letting information out that shouldn't be let out at the time. So, you know, for all the negative crap that Dixie takes, you know, the truth is that TNA probably would not even exist if it wasn't for Dixie Carter and her family. So, you know, so I mean, that is what it is, and that's just me being completely honest because, you know, like I just did with Russo, I'll tell you the good, but I'll tell you the bad too. Yes, there was a lot of silly shit that happened, but at the same time, would this company exist without Dixie Carter? That's a no. And I know I said earlier, probably no. I think that's a hard no, that it would not exist without Dixie Carter. And I mean, TNA's been around longer than WCW was. You know, there's a lot of people that still try to, you know, hate on what TNA, some of the decisions they made, but you know, but now we got new ownership, so we got to leave that shit in the past. You know, I don't have any problem with Dixie Carter. I never had. You know, she never said one cross word to me. She was always nice. And as far as my dealings with Shane Helms, everything was spot on. You know, I got paid on time. Everything was beautiful. So I'm kind of indifferent to the thing. You know, I just want this company to move ahead. I think from a public perception, this is good for the company because there were a lot of people that they just complained about Dixie Carter all the time. But now you ain't got that to worry about no more. Now you ain't got to focus on that. Focus on the product. Focus on what we're actually doing instead of worrying about all this backstage shenanigans bullshit. You know, so that's the positive I'm looking forward to. Let's focus on what we do.
Do you know how happy I was that we still had half of the show to record when that news dropped?
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I can't wait to get his ass.
So it's confirmed you're going to Skype in a podcast during the next creative meeting, talent meeting, right?
Yeah, well, let's not get crazy, kid. Let's not get crazy.
Also, quickly before we go, Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling podcast, great podcast, did an interview with Stevie Richards where he said that he and Raven almost came in for Apocalypto, but Raven kind of didn't want to do it. Also said that he would have had your ass because he would have been able to jump into the lake of reincarnation many more times than you.
Could be true. He's had quite a few. He's had quite a few incarnations, but they just weren't as successful.
Ooh.
Stevie, I hope
Ooh,
you're watching
dancing,
this, and you know
Stevie.
what this means right here. Stevie Legit Shoot was one of my favorite opponents in all my WWE career. Although we did almost knock each other out one time about 30 seconds into a match.
Broken Neck Stevie versus Broken Neck Helms. Who wins the fight?
The medical industry.
Jesus
the
Christ.
surgeon,
Shane.
whoever performed the surgeries on us.
Shane, you have an insane schedule over what, the next week or so?
Yeah, for the next 9 days, 8 or 9 days, I think it'll be for me about 12, 13 hours a day. Yeah,
TNA,
and that's not
TNA
counting
has
personal.
Yeah, TNA has a pay-per-view Friday night. This will release Friday afternoon. Check that out. Fightful.com, of course, will have live coverage of that. Impact every week. Shane, tell these sons of beaches where they can follow you.
At Shane Helms Com. That's on Twitter.
Follow us.
That's on Instagram. That's on Tumblr. That's on Facebook. I'm easy to find. You know, I actually reply to people. Huh? What'd you say?
Don't go to his Tumblr.
No, yeah, don't go to my Tumblr in public. Because the porn bots got me. The porn bots got me big. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they. And there's one thing when they follow you, somehow they made me follow a bunch. And so I started unfollowing a lot of them. But I'm like, damn, how many are there? And so, because mine's a bunch of science stuff, it's a bunch of comic book stuff, and a bunch of, you know, some politics, and they're just regular artsy, archaeological stuff, you know. And there's a couple that have the really bad jokes, you know, the jokes you send your friends, but you don't, you know, send in public, which I send every damn body. And I think it came from that. Next thing you know, it's just tits and ass everywhere. I'm like, damn. And it always pops up when my Karen walks by. It could be, it'll be 19 comic book pictures and wrestling pictures. And then the second my woman walks by, here comes the ass. And I'm like, baby, I'm telling you, I'm innocent. I'm an innocent man.
And she doesn't look like one to mess with, Shane.
Nah. She's, yeah. I got me a Wonder Woman. So yes, honey. Yes. I'll turn this right off.
Guys, send in topics, whatever you want us to talk about. We'll pick the best ones because we don't trust you all. We don't trust you all yet. Eventually we will. Follow us at Fightful online, Twitter and Facebook. Follow me at Sean Ross Sapp. Till next time, guys, we're out.